We're going to talk about case management under the realm of providing case management while residents are prepping for relocation or have relocated. So if you're in the wrong room, now would be the time for you to transition. It's kind of like when you get on a flight, if you're on the wrong plane. So we've got some heavy information to share with you, but we want to keep it light. We want to make it interactional at various times of this hour or so, hour and a half or so of this session. So let me start firstly by introducing myself. I'm Pamela Lawrence. I think you met us up front when we were on the stage this morning. And I am a people specialist for the Choice Neighborhoods team. My official title is Neighborhood Community Investment Specialist. And joining me for this presentation are this lovely group of ladies. We firstly have Christy Stutler, who is the Vice President of the Southern Region of Urban Strategies. We have Breesy Turner, who is an ambassador and resident leader for Louisville. I went blank, forgive me. And then Eva Mosby, who is the Director of Memphis Hope and also the people lead for the Memphis Hope Choice Neighborhood, and her colleague Jacqueline Hines, who is also an ambassador and resident leader in Memphis. And they will give you the story from a pre-relocation, post-relocation, providing case management. Now let me try to put you in the mindset of this session. Imagine a spring day, just kind of like a fall day or a spring day, beautiful day like today. And you're a resident at public housing, or you live in one of our multifamily subsidized units. You're a 35-year-old mother of three, a preschooler, an elementary student, and a high school scholar. Your elderly mother lives nearby, maybe a block in the same public housing community. And you and your children rely on her for babysitting, wisdom, and warm cookies on a regular basis. But in like form, she relies on you for transportation, for companionship, and just security checks. Make sure mama's doing okay. And all of a sudden, you get a knock at the door. It could be a case manager, it could be an ambassador, it could be your apartment manager, it could be a relocation specialist. And they say, well, you didn't make it to the meeting last night. So we've come to you to let you know that we're readying you for relocation. We have to move, she says. Yes, you're now one of the recipients of a Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, and we will be demolishing, tearing down your community over the next year, and all residents will have to temporarily relocate. Where? And then immediately she's puzzled and fearful and not knowing what's going to happen to her or her mother who lives nearby that they provide security for. Imagine this. These wonderful folks are working to orchestrate the readiness for the program. They're working with the property manager. They're working with the housing developer. They're working with the city. They're working with HUD. They're trying to also talk to schools who will be impacted by the relocation of 400 children. Schools close sometimes when that happens. They're talking to housing providers. They're talking to other property managers. Do you have any vacant units? Are you willing to take some other Section 8? But just yesterday, 2 other communities got relocated in Memphis. 400 people moved, also saturated the affordable housing market, but yet another set of residents had to relocate. Now, this is the kind of work that you all do every day, so this is not new to you. But we want to create a context for what these women, these professionals who are out there helping residents manage relocation. So are you walking the walk with us? The first speaker is going to be Christy, and she's going to tell you how they handled relocation in Memphis. In Louisville. Okay.
Good afternoon. I appreciate that. I'm Christy Stutler. I am the Southern Regional Director for Urban Strategies, and I appreciate it. Pamela actually promoted me. When I was up here, it was great. I was just sitting here and got a promotion, yes, but my vice president, Donovan Duncan's in the room, so I just want to be clear, I don't hold his job. So what I want to talk about, I supervise 4 projects that that Urban Strategies is the people lead on across the nation, and one of those happens to be in Louisville. I have only been with Urban Strategies since February of this year, so prior to that I worked 20 years in systems in Kentucky. So this project in Louisville is very near and dear to my heart. And what I want to talk about is how we would, 2 things. I want you to walk away from this with a couple of tangible things. And one of those is how we approach community engagement and how we did that very aggressively with measurable outcomes that we were seeking to get. And then I also want to talk about a process that we used to be able to reach our target and our goal that anybody in this room can take away from here and utilize in their work. So I want you to walk away from here with a process that you can utilize for anything that you're working on, that we will show you how it was effective. So starting off, one of the first things I will say is, if you were in the Donovan's presentation yesterday where he talked about mental models, raise your hand if you were in that presentation where he talked about mental models. So this is a mental model, right? If we build it, they will come. Right? We all know we've built programs, we've built things, and people don't show up, right? Talonda is our project manager in Louisville, and she and I were at a meeting with a partner, and they were talking about a job fair that they had, and they were like, we did this job fair, and literally no one showed up, and the employees are really mad. And so Talonda and I talked about, well, how did you get the information out to the residents? And this was the community engagement strategy. If we build it, they will come, right? And they got literally no one there. So one of the things that we did in Louisville, we started this project in January of this year. One of the great things about Urban Strategies, as Donovan said yesterday, we go into communities where we're doing our work and we hire people within those communities. And we do that very intentionally, very purposefully, because they know the community in a different way than people who are coming in from the outside. They know what the strengths of the community are. They know who are the ambassadors in the community that they can help build a platform and lift up. And they know what's going on in the community. One of the really other great benefits of that, because we hire all new people, all of us at the same time had no idea what was going on, right? We were all new to the project, and so we only knew from the information we had received about the Choice neighborhood what was going on there. So I want to talk to you about how we utilized a process, despite that, having brand new people who had never done this work this way, how we were able to take our target, so Beecher Terrace has 727 households, and we got 594. We went from 226 families signed up for case management to 594, and we did that in 15 weeks. And we did that following some pretty simple strategies anybody in this room can utilize to increase engagement. So just so people are clear, our staffing structure, because one of the first things I hear as a reason, again, I came from system work, so one of the things people in systems always say is we don't have enough staff to do that, right? So I just want to be clear, we don't have an exorbitant number of staff in Louisville to be able to pull this off. We have a senior project manager, which is Talonda. We have a senior case manager, 3 full-time case managers, and 2 part-time outreach workers. And at the time that we started this, Talonda was not on board. So we went a month or so without her here. So the staffing structure was actually scaled back just a little bit. So let's trace our steps. We did 3 things that I'm going to talk about. So the first one we did is we set an aggressive target, right? If you want to know, the first thing you do when you get in your car and you're going somewhere, if you don't know where you're going, you look it up on Google Maps, right? So we need a map. Where are we going? We all need to be going the same place. So we set a really aggressive target. We want to sign up 80% of those families in Beecher Terrace for case management. Why 80%? Because the whole point of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative is to help revitalize the community. And you can't do that if you only have 4 people participating in what you're doing, right? So we want to sign up as many people, get as many people involved as we can. And we want to do that before they relocate. Because once people start moving off site, it's really difficult to build relationships. It's really difficult to get them to come back and do what it is that you're trying to get them engaged in. So I'll tell you also, we set this target. And made this determination. So I set the target, in all honesty. I set the target and said, we're going to do 80%. And because everybody was new, I'm pretty sure they thought Kylene told us we had to do that. So they weren't exactly sure where that number came from. But one of the first things I did with them was go through the process. Is this doable? Can we do this? Is this too aggressive? And you know, through conversation, they were like, no, absolutely. We're in for this. We believe in this, and we can do 80%. So not only do we do the percentage, we knew that meant 582 households, right? So it was very clear, the numbers. The second thing we did is we really worked on reframing. Again, I'm going to go back to what Donovan talked about yesterday in regards to mental models. People have a lot of mental models about the community that we were going to work in. Beecher Terrace, it is violent. It is dangerous. You can't go there after certain hours. You shouldn't go there alone. These are all things we were told. And there's data to back up some of what, you know, there's some reality and some truth in that. There's a high rate of homicide within the community. There's a high rate of incarceration. But what I'm also going to offer is all of that is a symptom of high rates of trauma. There's a lot of complex trauma within the community. And so one of the first things that I did is I did a training with my staff about trauma, and trauma specific to the urban environment. Trauma that when you go to trauma trainings often isn't talked about, right? So in my system work, I had kids who would not go to school. They were truant. And one of the kids, I remember telling me he didn't go to school because he had to walk past 5 grave markers on his way to his bus stop, right? And so people don't talk about that when we're talking about trauma and types of traumatic experiences. People don't talk about that in that way. So I really wanted to frame for my staff that there was a high rate of complex trauma within Beecher Terrace, and that we really needed to be clear that we approach that community and the residents within the community in that way with that understanding, right? And what that means is you can't be untrustworthy, right? So if you don't know the answer, you got to say, I don't know the answer, right? You don't get to lie to people because it gets them out of your office. Like, you literally need to say, I have no idea, and I'm going to find that out and get back to you. So the third thing we did is we used this process, and we're going to go through this later this afternoon. It's called Plan, Do, Study, Act, and it is literally you establish a plan of what you're going to do, what you want to do. You develop what's the time frame that you want to do that. So if it's 2 weeks, for 2 weeks we're going to do this. And then you actually carry that out. Once you carry that out, you collect data along the way, because it's data driven, it's data informed. And so you collect the data. What worked? What about what we did was effective, right? And then you determine from there, what were the most effective things we did? Let's do that again, right? It's the things that didn't work, because we're all going to find those things that don't work. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something else. So that's the process that we used. And here were the critical considerations that we had when we started doing this. So the first one is we attended established community events. There were already tons of events planned within the community, and we felt like if we were going to be effective, we needed to embed ourselves in what was going on in the community, not recreate other things for people to do. So we went to the spring break events. We went to the open houses. We went to the local community center, and we were involved in the events that were going on. Oh, and by the way, would you like to sign up for case management, right? My staff had that pitch down to perfection. We varied times of engagement. So if we went through the neighborhood and did door knocking at 9, 10 a.m., one day, the next day we would change that to go in the afternoon. Quite simply because people have patterns of when they're home and patterns of when they're gone. And if you only do it 8 to 4, guess what? You're going to miss all the people who aren't there from 8 to 4, right? We also then, in that process, we repeated those high-yield activities. So the things that we saw that got us a lot of case management sign-ups, we just repeated those. And we repeated those until we literally wore out that process and didn't have any other residents to sign up. We did targeted interventions, so the door knocking, as I said, was extremely effective, and we continued to do that. About a week and a half into the process, we realized some people signed up for case management 4 times. So we probably need a list of who signed up and who hasn't, and let's map out where those people who haven't signed up are, and let's go there, right? And let's vary the times that we go there. The other thing that we did, and this is, my team is incredible in Louisville. This is all them. They came up with all of these things. So we were very creative in how we approached signups. So they went to the rent office every time the rent was due. That was one easy way. They knew they would get foot traffic. The other thing is we sent out flyers with rent notices, right? So it's a really easy way to do that. There's a bus, because Beecher Terrace is unfortunately one of those neighborhoods that is in a food desert, right? And so there's a bus that takes people to a market to get fresh food, and there are certain times of the month that it does that. My staff got on the bus and said, "Hey, how are you? Would you like to sign up for case management?" Right? We talked about crossing over into stalker a little, right? Like we had a conversation about that. And then the other thing we did, so we got towards the end of June, and we were off, and we were like, "Oh no, we're not going to hit the target." And so I never took any responsibility for this work. I asked them, "What are you guys going to do about that?" Right? Like, you agreed to the 80%. How are you going to get there? And so they were like, "Oh, we got to send out letters. There's some people who moved off site before we started doing this. Let's mail out letters." And so we did hit our target, right? Our target was 582, and we actually exceeded it. It was 594, the number of households that we signed up. And that's literally all we did. It's that easy. That's all you got to do.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reese Turner, and I'm a proud resident at the Beach Terrace site, and she is absolutely right. They signed me up from case management by coming to my door. After they signed me up for case management, I had several notes of it in my door. I called them at the rental office. There was about 5 times that I had to say, "Hey, I've already signed up for case management." And outside of that, I mean, I've seen all their efforts. I went to several meetings and events that was hosted at our community center. I saw them on the bus stop, like she said, and I also saw that they were just kind of relentless in their efforts. I don't quite call it a stalker. It was rather pleasing that I didn't have to do anything to receive some benefits. You know, we do want the benefits or whatever, but so it was just naturally nice that I didn't exert any energy whatsoever to actually receive the benefits, and like, I caught them everywhere. I'm actually one of those people that's on the go, so like I said no about 5 times out after signing up. And then I'm greatly appreciative, too, of the benefits, and thank you guys for all your hard work.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Well, I'm Eva Mosby, and I'm the director for Urban Strategy Memphis Hope. Excuse me. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about our foot home. Thank you. I'm going to talk about foot homes and some of the same things that Chrissy did in Louisville to get her resident ready to move out. We had already done those things in Memphis. So now they're off-site, and so this is how the development looked prior to being torn down. I can actually say they've torn foot homes down in Memphis. So now we're doing the case management now and planning to move them back into the new development. They've broken the grounds to go ahead and do the demolition, but they have not started rebuilding yet. And I want to share with you that during relocations, we had all of our families to sign up for case management. And we did that. It was easy for us because they had to move out. In order to move out, you signed up for case management. So that was one of the good things about that. And foot home was one of those things where people had mental models about foot homes. So it was high crime rate. And we had 5 other developments that had been redeveloped under Hope 6. And doing that, the hard to serve or the hard to place had moved into foot homes. So you can see that mental model people made now. This is a bad community to live in. Nobody want to live there, or they couldn't go anywhere else, so they ended up at foot homes. So urban strategy, or through Memphis Housing Authority, we applied for the Choice Neighborhood Grant in February of 2015. And at that time, it was 414 families living there. And we were awarded September of 2015 the Choice Neighborhood Grant. And at that time, it was 386 families. And this is our org structure. Memphis Housing Authority actually applied for the grant. Then I'm the operation director. And you see, we're unique. We're funded by CNI, which is the Choice Neighborhood, and we also have the Job Plus grant. So with this, I have one case manager supervisor on the funding through CNI, one case manager, one educational specialist, and one health specialist. But on the Jobs Plus, I have 2 workforce specialists, 3 case managers, and 5 resident ambassadors. And also over on the Ross, so you see we all work together. I have 1 service coordinator dedicated to foot homes. So you see all our hours tie in. And so once we had gotten all our residents moved out, the Housing and Community Development did a GIS for us, what I call a scatter plot. It mapped where all of our residents lived. And so in doing that, we assigned them to a case manager. So you see 5 different colors up there, and that represented what we call a zone or a node. That's where our people live. So there are 5 different colors, so we have 5 different case managers and 5 different ambassadors, 1 assigned to each color. And so, there are some obstacles too in moving people out of the foot homes. Some just refuse to leave. Say, I'm not going to leave. And by January 31st, all the residents had been moved out of foot homes. But like Pamela said, we had 2 properties there that was condemned. And so individuals had to move out of not foot homes, but there were 2 apartment complexes. They were condemned, and they had to move out. So now our families, they're competing for them for the vouchers. So therefore, it made it a little bit more difficult for them to find housing. One of the things we did, once we got our families moved out, we created a resource guide for them. And that resource guide was individualized to their community. And so you'll see that we tried to tell them everything. This is zone 5 here. It gave them we gave them our mission and our vision, the grocery stores in that area, grocery stores. You see, we went through everything. Talk about the health services, the emergency services, the police department, human services, the schools, the after-school programs, the educational job skill placement, the child care, the libraries. We wanted them to get familiar with that new neighborhood, because every neighborhood was different. And we gave one of these to each one of our residents based on the zip code they were living in. And that's how we grouped our families. And doing this, we also solicit our ambassador to help us through the process. So I'm going to let our ambassador talk to you real briefly, and I'll come back.
No, I'm not. No. Okay. Hello. I'm an ambassador, which is just a fancy word for the case manager helper. And that's exactly what we do. We assist the case managers with developing, building and maintaining a positive relationship with the residents and keeping them engaged. We do most of the mailings, most of the callings. We do home visits. We remind them of job fairs. We also assist with the job fairs with getting the vendors according to the residents' skill set and their needs. And also, by us being just like the residents, because I am a resident, I bring that credibility and the trust with the other residents because they look at me as one of them. And so I actually just act, you can say a voice for other residents. Yeah, and the middleman, because like a lot of stuff they'll tell me they won't tell the case managers. And I relay a message, and we all share some of the same barriers, so I can relate. And a lot of stuff they're not going to tell the case managers because they hadn't been through the same thing that we're going through. So basically, that's what I do.
Okay, thank you. Now, one of the things, we had developed partnerships. And once we went into the zones, we had to realign our partnerships and realign our partners. So we're in the process now of developing MOUs with our partners because they made a commitment. They did a letter of commitment when we applied for the application. So we know that commitment may have changed, and I've gotten a letter, MOU from a lot of them, but there are some still pending. And now what we did, too, we had to have those partners come to zone meetings. We want to meet the resident wherever they are by attending zone meetings, and some of our partners, they had multiple locations in the different zones. So it was easy then for our residents to connect with them. So that was one of the things. We want to remove all these barriers from them. And then we had to develop new partnership. And what we did, we asked our old partners, who's some new partners we can bring to the table? Because we need them. And then we also asked our residents, who are some partners that we need? Who do you see? And then we use our job force specialists to go door to door in those communities to develop those relationships. What are some of those employment opportunities? You know, we have residents that live in the community now. We want to make it easy access for them. Can you assist us? How many job openings do you have? So those are the type of partnership and relationship, you know, we've created in these new communities. Now, we also telling our families, we want you to move back if you want to move back when we build foot homes back. But we still touching bases with them each month to make sure to keep them engaged. Now, you know, some will not get engaged. I think someone asked that question. We don't give up. We continue to work with them. We continue to do that outreach. And I know if you were in the employment on yesterday, Donovan talked about the relationship we had with FedEx. Well, we're trying to develop a relationship with some other companies like that, too, because we know it's important to provide their case management services. We just had a new health specialist start, and what she's doing is going through now through the data to say, okay, who do not have insurance? If they don't have insurance, we know it's open enrollment now for ACA. We're trying to sign them up. If they're going through the data, say, hey, who's using the emergency room as their primary care provider? We're talking with them, hey, you need insurance, or how do we better manage that? You know, everything you don't have to go through the emergency room for. We have our educational specialist. She's going through looking at the data. In fact, back in the spring, we assisted with enrolling kids in Head Start, because that's important. We advocated for slots. So we've worked out the relationship with Porter Leaf, which is our Head Start provider. Hey, can we have some slots there? So those are the type of relationship we are building in our community. And so even with the school district there, we're working with the school district. We open up a community resource center in Booker T. Washington High School, or junior high to high school, where we can engage families there. So all those things, you know, it's different now because we're no longer place-based. We're scattered throughout the city. Okay, that's all I have to say. I'm going to turn it over to Pamela.
Well, did I give you the look or something?
No, you did.
Oh.
I was going to ask if they have any questions.
She got carried away. So that's my job, is to ask them a few questions, and if time permits, I'll have you ask them some additional questions. Now, I'm not sure where to stand, so I'm not blocking you off from the audience. They started with outreach for case management, but we know that there was much work done leading up to that point. And let me just create more context. We already heard about the mother of 3 with the grandmother and mother living in a footprint. Now, from the worker perspective, there's also a walk they have to walk. And let's ask them questions about how they built their capacity around understanding relocation, all the requirements, and the timing. How did you build your capacity around what you needed to tell residents as they readied for relocation while you were signing them up for case management? You've got, okay, I'm going to have to keep one of them.
So, okay, so I think we did several things to answer that. One is we had to educate ourselves because we were new. We all started this around the same time. And so even though we had collectively over probably close to 200 years of experience working in social services, we hadn't worked in this capacity. So we had to educate ourselves, and we did that by reaching out to our wonderful partners, the Louisville Metro Housing Authority, and they did a lot of education with us about the requirements of relocation and how that process was going to work so that we understood it. And I think the other thing that I want to say about that is that, again, I really reinforce with my staff, if you don't know, don't make it up, right? Connect people to who they need to talk to, because Kathy Head is our partner at the Housing Authority who handles relocation, and she has much more information than we do. And so if residents asked us questions, we connected her to those resources. And so don't take that all on yourself and own that yourself. Really reach out and utilize the people who can give accurate information so that you continue to build trust within the community.
Anyone else want to speak to that question?
And in Memphis, we have what we call a relocation team, which consists of Memphis Housing Authority and Urban Strategies. We also solicit Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, which is our utility provider. And one of the things that our residents had to adapt to, that in public housing, they did not have to pay for utilities. And now going out to a voucher program, you had utilities included. You have to pay utilities. So therefore, educating our residents about paying a utility bill. That was something very new to them. And with that, we're still educating them about that because, you know, that's a shift. And I think someone had said earlier, you're paying a $50 rent, and now you got a utility bill on top of that. So how do I manage all of that?
So let me ask our resident leaders and ambassadors to speak to the fear that our young mother had, and that I'm sure you were faced with when you were asking folks to sign up for case management, but also ready for relocation. How did you help residents face their fears? Either?
Well, I'm fairly new, so I'm going to have to tweak that a little bit. I haven't done too much footwork as far as case management goes, but what we're going to be doing, or what they've started, I'm going to be adding into that. But we're going to have a courtyard of resident meetings within the physical little court, so it's not like a big gathering. It's more private, comfortable setting to kind of get the residents out of that fear to open up a little bit more with us.
Okay. Can you speak to that as well, Jacqueline?
Well, we didn't engage with during the transition.
Pull your mic up just a
We
little.
didn't engage with the other residents, you know, when we were moving. But I mean, I do talk to the other residents in a very informal way, so I can be like, hey girl, we're gonna go look at these apartments over here and we're gonna do this together. And we can move over here together. We still can be neighbors, things like that. I mean, we didn't really engage, because like you said, we scattered all around the city, so we all didn't relocate back to one place. So
Okay.
it was different.
So
for us.
you didn't hear the concerns that residents had about, I'm going to lose my lease, so they're trying to get rid of me, I'm never going to be able to come back. Did you hear any of that from
No,
residents?
I didn't, no.
Is that something you're hearing in your communities? Yes, okay. So to Eva and to Christy, have you dealt with it in some of your other sites that you're working in, particularly Christy?
So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And one of the things that you find, no news travels faster than news of change in
negative
any
news.
neighborhood, right? That's going to impact the whole neighborhood. And by the time it gets to the end, if it was accurate at the beginning, by the time it gets to the end, you have to leave a kidney at the door, and there's all kinds of things added on to that. And so I think one of the things is really just to acknowledge that the fear is real. I mean, it's scary when people are saying you're going to have to move out of. There are some people who've lived in the community for 40 years, some people who've lived there their whole lives, right? And I think the recognition that there's something traumatic about being uprooted, it's one of the, if you look at stressors in your life, moving is a big one. And people were talking about, not only am I going to have to move, I qualified for a 3-bedroom house here, and I'm only going to get a 1-bedroom house somewhere else. And some piece of it is listening and being willing to validate that, we understand that, and we want to support you in whatever way we can in moving forward. And I think that's, and making sure people have accurate information.
Excellent.
Hey, Pamela, can you ask Eva to talk about the partnership with the utility company?
Okay.
Because Memphis has a unique partnership with the utility company that everybody should know about.
Okay. Let me also share that residents, when you start thinking about it, some of the things that had occurred in the housing authority, they were faced with different things. Like we had a family, it was a mother with 2 children. She didn't have a birth certificate on those 2 children. And they were 17 and 18. So that's huge. So now going into a voucher, you need their birth certificate. They were enrolled in school. And so now we're trying to verify birth. And the housing authority, now they're saying, hey, for HCV, you need that birth certificate. So we've given her, or they've given her, a time to provide that. So that means she has to go to court now to get the children was born at home. She's never had a birth certificate on these children. So a real unique situation. And these are the things our case manager had to deal with. And we're still dealing. And the mother, she did not want to cooperate. She does not want to cooperate. Where before she had, I think, a 3-bedroom, and now they were talking about putting her in a 1-bedroom because they can only verify her. And she has a girl and a boy. 17 and 18. So they've never had a birth certificate or social security card, none of that stuff.
Right. That's a long, messed up story.
It's a long, messed up story.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the utilities?
Put it out there, what our case manager has to deal with.
So talk about the utilities.
Okay,
too.
let me
That
tell you
was
about the
question
utility
from the
companies.
audience.
Our utility company is called Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And they've been a great partnership with us. And basically what they will do is they have several different programs that our families can enroll in. And one of the things they could do, you can pay for your utilities in advance. It's almost like a credit card. You put down money on your credit card, you use the utility. When you get close to using it all up for that month, they will notify you. You can put some additional money on. So that way you can manage your utilities. They also have another program where you can do a flat fee. They look at the average, what has occurred in that place over the past year, and that's what they will bill you for. So that's to help you manage your money. And in doing that, at the end of every year, they go back and reanalyze how much you've used, so it may be adjusted up or down.
And they've also
Thank you. Now, I'm going to redirect us a little bit because we're running short of time.
Okay.
Thank you so much. What you're hearing is that there are many barriers that are identified once you start to relocate residents. And whether it's unpaid utility bills that they had before they moved into that ACC unit and now have to pay before they get them connected in a voucher unit, has to be dealt with. You haven't even talked about those kinds of challenges, but also the fact that you're now breaking down a community of support that was truly intact and in place and strong. And so we're grateful that the ambassadors are here to help foster those new communities of support. We're grateful that you have great case management that uncovers challenges so families can be stably housed. So what you heard from this portion is that it's important to do quality and early relocation education and counseling. And we didn't talk a lot about all the specifics of relocation because that's not what this session is about. It's just that you need to be conscious of relocation and how it impacts case management. In addition, you've got to provide case management and offer it to all of your residents. That is a NOFA requirement. It's not a requirement that residents participate in case management. And so it's optional for them to engage. And so you've heard both Christy and Eva say, we never give up, we never stop trying. Early, timely, and regular communication with residents and unique formats is something else you heard examples of. So if you want to dialogue later with our experts up here to get some other ideas about doing that, I think that's one of the strengths. Engagement of resident leaders, ambassadors, to be the natural helper so that you can foster trust and build quicker communication. Realignment of staff, vendor, provider, resources as you relocate. Early market research so that you can make sure families move to viable housing. And don't forget about the impact that it has on schools and other resources, girls and boys clubs in that footprint. So you've got to be in communication with your providers. Now we're going to take this last 30 minutes or so of our session to talk about a tool that Christy uses that helps them to move through and get to results faster. Christy, I'll give it to you for about 10 minutes instruction, then we want to give you all 10 minutes or so to work through it, and then 10 minutes to report back out. It's going to be fast.
Because that's how this whole process is designed to work, right? It's designed to work really quickly, and it does a couple of things. One thing is, we've been entrusted with the funds from the federal government to actually make some measurable changes at the community level, and I don't think it's fiscally responsible to wait to the end of the grant and go, oh, well, we didn't do that. We didn't hit that target, right? So this quality improvement cycle that was passed out to you it's a rapid cycle quality improvement. It is designed for you to test a hypothesis you have really quickly to prevent us, because I don't want to get 3 years in and find out what we're doing is not working, right? I want to know in a week so that we can change course if we need to. The other thing that it really does is it allows you the permission to fail and to be creative. Because so much of what we do, we're like, okay, we know the answer. We're going to follow the path we know because that's the answer we know, right? It only gets us the results we've gotten. So if you're satisfied with those, you should absolutely keep doing them. But if you're not and you want to try something else, this allows you an opportunity, this process, to try something else, look at how, study, collect data about how it works or doesn't work, and then change course if you need to or continue on. So it's a process designed to go very quickly. So if you look up here, it's the cycle because it's intended to be continual. And they passed out to you the other side of this, which essentially breaks this down, and I'm going to go through what we did in Louisville. So you all have the Louisville example right now. So the first thing that you're doing is you're identifying what's the plan, what are you trying to learn, what is it that you're trying to improve, by how much, and by what time frame, right? So in Louisville, we were trying to decide, our hypothesis was, if you want to engage people, you have to go to where people are, and you have to be present, and you need to do that. So the more present you are, the more likely you are to get people to trust you and sign up for case management. And so we were trying to increase the number of families who signed up for case management by 100, and that was about a 3-week time period. So we were going to 4-7. We started on 317, right? So we wanted to increase the number by 100. So we knew where we were going. And then the do is just carry it out. Carry out the process. So for us, beginning where we started was 226, and we did case management. Our case management and outreach staff went door to door. They were available at community events. They created flyers. They even wrote on the sidewalk in sidewalk chalk. I mean, they did all kinds of things to get people to know what they were doing, and we did those through April 1st. And as we were doing that, so when we got people who came who we signed up, we noted. So at the community event where we had a little table that had chips, and people would come over and go, "Oh, can we have chips?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, would you like to sign up for case management?" So we noted how many people came over to our table there, how many people did we sign up there, how many people did we sign up when we were at the rent office, because we really wanted to have the data to show what was the thing that we did that really pulled in the case management sign up so that we could repeat it. And the study is absolutely going back and looking at the data. If you talk to a room full of people can tell you, well, I know in my gut this works, right? Like, I know it works. And so this is really that, all right, well, if it works, we should have the data to support that. So this is really operating off of what the data shows that is effective. And so when we looked at that, the events held and the number of families signed up at each event, we began with 246. And as of 4/7, we had 373 signups. Right? And the act is, so the other piece of the study is figuring out what those high yield events were. And if you look on the next page, it will go through that. We we figured out that door knocking yielded a high number of signups, and we decided to adjust our staffing, as I talked about earlier. Community events helped connect the staff to people and build rapport and trust, and that also yielded a high number of signups. And then having food at tables, at least people came over and said, hey, what you got? Right? And then we said, oh, here's a bag of chips, and you know what? We'll give you another bag of chips so you can bring somebody else back over here, right? So just very simple things. And then what we did from there, because this process is circular, we continued to do the things that worked, and we quit doing the things that didn't. And so you see how this is designed to be used so that you don't continue for 3 years doing something that somebody somewhere had an inkling worked, and get to the end of your grant and go, oh no, nobody's better off here because we were doing this one thing, right? So, is that good? Am I under time? No, you're good. You want to do? No, I'm good. I'm done.
Thank you. We want to create a community of learning, so you all might have some great tools like what Christy just shared, and if that's the case, please raise those up to your people specialists so that we can share that through our newsletters and through our other forms of communication so that others can benefit from it. So you've got a tool, you've got a blank form in your hand. And so we want you to try this tool out while you've got Christy in your presence, and maybe ask her questions on how you might better utilize this particular tool. And we've got about 10 minutes. One of the concerns that we've heard at the resident meeting, we heard it expressed at our small reflection tables this morning, is that there are challenges getting residents to engage in overall choice planning, implementation, evaluation, meetings. We've also heard that residents are not engaging in programs, in case management. Which of those issues would you all like to try to use, brainstorm at your table, what you might do differently, how you might plan, things you might do, kind of information you will study, and then those future actions you would take?
So raise your hand if you found this difficult. Look, nobody, raise your hand. Oh, no, but you just didn't hear me. Raise your hand if you found this difficult, this process.
Anybody find this process difficult?
Challenging, right? Sometimes it's, what kind of challenges? Just shout out, what kind of challenges?
I think we all have different populations and different developments and different situations that we're developing.
Okay, so you're not a work group that has a goal that you're working together, right? So everybody comes from different places, and so it's really hard to find something that you could plan on together, right? But do you see how you could take this back with a work group that you worked with, how you could utilize that with that group to move into action, right?
Sorry, David.
All right. So we're going to ask for a couple of tables to volunteer, and if tables don't volunteer, I'll volunteer. I'll volunteer, people. So thank you for volunteering. So here's all we want you to do. So tell us what were you trying to achieve, and what plan did you guys come up with?
Thank you. So we're planning to increase community engagement in programming.
Okay.
Like really the partner programs, like programs that partners are offering as part of the grant.
Okay. And what was the time frame you wanted to do that in, and what was the amount?
Well, so I want to get 100 more families engaged by the end of March.
Okay. All right. And what are you all?
This is specific to Boston.
Okay.
Because I know what our goals are in Boston right now.
So what are you all going to do to do that?
So I learned from everyone at this table, all these other groups have done these great Facebook pages or really been using social media to help engage folks.
Okay.
And they have proof that it's working. So I was like, I'm going to try it.
And how long are you going to try that for?
Until March 31st.
Okay. And so that's a really long time from now? Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. So what if it doesn't work?
If it doesn't work.
If it does not work.
Right. So then we'll start. Well, I would probably start to reassess in January. Like I would start to see where we're at, because right now it's November 3rd. So I'd probably be looking at it in January.
Okay.
And if it's not working, I would try to come up with another plan. But I would, right now the intention would be to keep it going until the end of March.
Okay. And so what would make you stop it? What would make you go, no, I'm not going to do this anymore?
if I'm only getting like 4
Okay.
people looking at the page.
Okay, great. That's exactly the process you
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
walk
yeah.
through, right? Is what data do I need to see to tell me
Right.
if it's working? What
Right.
data do I need to see to tell me that it's not?
I need to see an increase in the number of people like every week.
Right.
My number of likes or what have you, yeah.
And so one of the things I just want to challenge is even if you set a target out for March that you want to achieve, you really, this is designed to be done in 2 or 3 weeks. So you might within 2 or 3 weeks go back and look at it. All right, what's it doing,
Yeah.
right? Like, have we seen this increase here, right? And we've already talked about what you would need to see and how you would study that, and then how you could change your action based on what you found. Perfect.
Great.
One more table.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. You guys are great.
Oh, you got it? Thank you. I don't have to be Vanna. Okay.
Well, what our community plan on doing is tracking the academic wellness of our students, seeing how they're doing academically.
Okay.
And we want to see improvements in grades and attendance.
Perfect. By how much by what time?
Well, we want to see grades go up by 0.3, and we're looking at for the quarter.
Okay.
And for the semester to see grades go up by 0.3.
Did you say I'm sorry to cut you off. Did you say
So
attendance?
grades and attendance.
Okay, perfect.
But I was focusing on grades. See grades go up by 0.3 each quarter.
Uh-huh.
And we do that by setting up tutoring services, after-school homework programs.
Okay.
Engaging with the parents, engaging with the school district in regards to non-disclosure agreements so we can get information in regards to how the children are doing academically.
Okay.
Also follow up with SAR boards to see, track attendance, and if there's any attendance issues or truancy issues with any of the children.
What would tell you if it's working?
Say again?
What would tell you if it's working?
If it's working, great.
How would you know? How are you going to measure if it's working?
Well, attendance in regards to if our students are attending regularly.
Yeah, kids go to school
business-
more,
yeah,
right?
They're
That's
going to
how
school
you know.
more, and grades are going up, and
Right.
there's no truancy issues.
Okay. So one of the thing I want to ask a couple more questions.
Okay.
So one is you would have to look at it over a quarter, right? Because for grades to go up, you're going to have to look at it over long term. But in the short term, because you identified 2 things. In the short term, you could measure attendance, right? So
Yes.
every couple of weeks, you could measure
Most definitely following
attendance.
with the teachers, seeing
Right.
how little Johnny's doing, if he's attending daily and
Yep.
weekly, and making sure there's no truancy issues for us, detentions or anything for coming to school late or anything, and make sure there's no transportation issues by addressing that with parents for 1, 2 students, and 3 to schools.
So if you find that those things are present, what are you going to do?
We're going to give incentives for those children to continue doing well, but again,
Wait a minute. You're going to do what? If you
give incentives.
Give incentives. Okay, so
Incentives.
you already got a plan. If
Yes.
this isn't working, this is how I shift it, right? This is the shift that we make to be able to move. And collecting that data is important. So the kids who are attending the tutoring program, you really want to measure, are their grades going up, right? Not.
Yes.
So perfect. You guys did a good job. Give yourselves a hand.
Thank you, Christy. So was this helpful just to have a tool to help you process around challenges? Please go back and use it. Let Christy know how it's working for you. We've got a few minutes. So remember, the session was about case management, pre and post relocation. So I want to find out if you have any questions in the audience about what is case management? What are other things that I need to be considering? Any questions? So everybody understands what case management is? In-depth assessment of individuals and families, development of a plan, goal setting that would help move them from one place to a more positive place, the orchestration of resources to address and strategically meet those needs, and then that achievement, right? And then every year you come back and reassess. Okay, good. Any questions? Yes, Donna.
I don't remember your name in a blank check. You said that you was an ambassador. It was just a fancy name for saying you assist the case managers. But wear that as a badge of honor because the position you are is at the starting line. You can't finish something you never started. So without you too, you know, it will be very hard for strangers to come in your community and maneuver and get the work done that you are able to get done. And another thing, you're there 24 hours. They get to go home. So I commend the both of you. Please keep up the job. They need you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of the magic dust And if you're working in a community where you've asked residents to take a leadership role in engagement, you're going to have more effective outcomes. And so thank you. I'm going to give the panel the last word, and then Kylene is going to come up here with a couple parting comments and directions. Oh, you've got a mic. Use this one. It's louder. Just, what would you like to?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
I'm sorry. She was presenting, and I didn't give her good instructions. So, what tidbit of advice would you leave our audience with about trying to provide case management in the midst of relocation?
So I think I want to give you just one real measurable thing you can do that I've found in my short time at Urban is extremely beneficial. Print out a resident list at the time you do an application so you know who all the people are, right? And that sounds very, very, very simple, but we found even with the child list of who are the children and what are the schools they're going to, that in order for you to deliver effective services, you got to know who the people are and you got to be able to find them. And 5 years, 6 years from now, you ain't going to remember all those people. And if people are gone, you're going to lose historical information. So print a resident list.
Thank you very much. Pass it down.
The one thing I would say is I keep hearing everyone say that you got to meet the people where they're at. That is absolutely true, but I would add to that that you need to speak the language of the people. Everyone does not understand or learn or process information the same way, so you got to kind of speak the language of the people if you really want them to be able to receive what you have to offer.
What I would leave, that when we started relocation, we did not have our case managers and our ambassadors in place. And in fact, we had 3 case managers that was housed over at Foot Homes with our resident. By the time we did the relocation in our different nodes, we had 5, and only 2 of those was serving as case managers at that time. So now you reintegrating, or you introducing the resident to 3 new case managers and 5 ambassadors. So if I had to do it all differently, I would make sure my case manager and my ambassador was there when we start the relocation piece, so they'll know who's calling them or who's reaching out to them.
She actually took my answer, but I would I would add on, because we have, the problem is now once we go into the homes of residents, they're like, well, this another person in my business, and I'm tired of explaining, I'm not in your business, ma'am. I come to give you the business on what's going on in your community. So if we were introduced at the same time, we wouldn't have that conflict.
And only a resident can say that to another resident, right? Right? And so that's why it's important to really use your resident leaders as spokespeople for you, because they can break down barriers that you can't. So I want to ask you all to give our panelists a round of applause. And then, if you haven't got their names and numbers and email addresses, please take advantage of the opportunity to dialogue with them further. They're willing to share more information and insight. And I thank you for your attention. Kylene wants to close us out and direct you further before you leave.